What if that dusty old drawer or broken chair in your garage wasn't junk, but the start of your next favorite home decor piece? In today's video, we'll explore over 20 jaw-dropping ways to upcycle old furniture into timeless, rustic farmhouse charm. These are not just projects, they are stories made visible, ideas reborn from the bones of forgotten furniture. Welcome to Backyard Fortune, where every DIY tells a tale. And don't worry, timestamps are included, so feel free to skip to what inspires you most. If anything sparks a question or you want to share your creation, drop it in the comments below. Let's dive in. One, upcycle dresser farmhouse coffee nook. Somewhere between sunlight and steam, forgotten furniture finds its second breath. In the heart of a glass-paneled greenhouse, a vintage dresser, once chipped and neglected, now stands with pride beneath climbing vines and morning blooms. Painted sage green, it breathes life into its new purpose as a farmhouse coffee nook. Potted plants cascade over its surface while delicate mugs with hand-drawn wildflowers wait patiently beside a steaming mocha pot. Above, slices of dried orange hang like tiny suns, catching the soft mist of the morning air. This is not just upcycling, it is storytelling. A ritual space where coffee meets soil and nature shares the table. Step inside another world, just beyond a window framed in lavender and wildflowers. An old whitewashed dresser, its wood softened by years of quiet use, now serves as the stage for daily delight. Croissants rest on a tray as if just placed there by a breeze, honey jars shimmer in golden light, and a French press stands tall at the center, filled, steeping, ready. It's a still life in motion, surrounded by stacked enamel mugs and the faint hum of bees outside. There's no performance here, no pressure to perfect. Just a gentle reminder that beauty can grow from what's already yours. And in another room, where white curtains billow like breath and floorboards echo softly, a wooden cabinet hums with quiet usefulness. Its drawers half open, revealing rows of mugs, stacked plates, and jars of coffee beans sorted by hand. Nothing here is polished, everything is personal. This dresser didn't start out destined for charm. It became it, layer by layer, cup by cup. With each shelf repurposed, each knob left unchanged, it holds the spirit of doing more with less. Of making the mundane magical again. Let this be your invitation, not to replicate, but to reinterpret. Your next coffee nook might be hiding in the hallway, the attic, or even the curb. All it needs is your vision, a little care, and the patience to let it bloom into something uniquely, wonderfully yours. Two, rustic headboard bench for porches. Sometimes, rest doesn't come from sitting, but from remembering that even the most ordinary things can begin again. Tucked beneath a leafy arbor where gravel gently curves toward an orchard, a simple wooden bench waits in silence. Once a headboard, now transformed by thoughtful hands, it stands painted in muted sage, a color that hums in harmony with the trees above. A knitted throw cascades softly down its arm, while a bouquet of freshly gathered wildflowers rests like a quiet offering. Here, time doesn't rush. The filtered sunlight dapples the ground, and the creak of the bench becomes part of the breeze. It feels like a place where stories sit down with you. Not far away, beside a red brick cottage, another bench welcomes at the doorway. This one in robin's egg blue, worn at the edges, familiar as an old friend. A single cushion rests gently against its back, while chamomile blooms nod in terracotta pots below. A pair of boots, scuffed and softened by time, are left tucked underneath, ready for a walk through wild grass. The whole scene feels as if it's always been there, not placed, but grown into the space, like a place where magic stops for tea and leaves a petal behind. And on a wooden porch, wrapped in the dappled shade of climbing vines, a creamy bench with turned legs stands with quiet dignity. Its seat is wide and welcoming, layered with plaid and linen, and underneath, a wooden crate carries gardening gloves and the memory of morning soil. The shadows here are honest. Real sun moves across real wood. There's no filter, only warmth. Only the kind of comfort that comes from giving something forgotten a new reason to belong. This is the heart of farmhouse living. Not decoration, but devotion. Taking what was once left behind, and turning it into something that offers pause, comfort, and quiet pride. Whether your headboard comes from an attic, a thrift store, or your own childhood bed, its next chapter could begin right here, where the garden path curves gently toward a story of rest and renewal. Three, vintage ladder farmhouse display rack. What once helped someone reach high shelves now helps create calm. In the corner of a quiet farmhouse bathroom, an old wooden ladder leans effortlessly against white shiplap walls. It doesn't try to be perfect. Its wood is chipped, its grain raised by time. Draped across its rungs are soft, hand-woven linens in gentle shades of sage and cream, catching the morning sun that drips through flowing curtains. Below it, a pot of rosemary sits proudly, its scent blending with the breeze. This space feels like a breath held gently, simple, real, and soulfully quiet. Not a showroom, but a moment captured in light and time. Elsewhere, tucked into a farmhouse bedroom wrapped in cedar and chamomile, the ladder becomes a silent storyteller. Here, its rungs cradle patchwork quilts that have warmed generations. A trunk rests beside it, holding secrets and spare blankets. Chamomile blooms from a galvanized bucket nearby, and the wooden beams above cradle the morning like a lullaby. You can almost hear the hush of soft voices, the rustle of old fabric, the memory of a hand folding quilts with care. This isn't just a ladder, it's a piece of someone's everyday, turned into a soft monument of home. And then, there's a greenhouse kissed by morning gold. Within its sunlit walls, an antique ladder rises like a totem of green life. Terracotta pots balance gently along its weathered steps, filled with thyme, oregano, and mint. Vines trail nearby, and a cat dozes peacefully on a patchwork rug, completely at ease in this sanctuary of warmth and oxygen. The glass windows are misted by the breath of plants, and light falls like honey across every surface. There's no filter here. Just sun, wood, herbs, and the wisdom of giving old things new roots, quite literally. Sometimes, the simplest upcycles carry the deepest soul. Not because they impress, but because they belong. A ladder can climb again. This time, not toward a ceiling, but toward comfort, beauty, and presence. Four, antique door to rustic dining table. A door, once a passage between rooms, now becomes a table, a gathering place where stories arrive not by footsteps, but by shared meals. In the heart of a light-washed farmhouse kitchen, the transformation feels both grounded and poetic. The door rests horizontally now, its original hinges intact, quiet reminders of its former function. The surface bears witness to time, weathered knots, soft chips, a line where the latch once clicked shut. Morning sunlight moves slowly across the tabletop, revealing these imperfections like old memories being retold. Upon it, a jar of wildflowers leans toward the light, and a round loaf of bread waits patiently to be broken. The table doesn't boast, it simply belongs, the kind of place where you feel welcome to linger long after the plates are cleared. Step into a sun-drenched courtyard beneath an open pergola, and you'll find another, a table stitched together from mismatched chairs and faded layers of paint. Green peeks through white, like moss through stone. Atop the salvage door, cloth napkins are gently lifted by the breeze, and the clink of old ceramic plates echoes laughter from garden lunches. This is not a scene from a magazine, it is better. It is real. Untrimmed vines frame the edges, and iced tea sweats slowly in the midday sun. Every imperfection here is part of the charm. Every seat tells a different tale. And deeper still, within thick stone walls lit only by candlelight, an old beige door becomes an altar to nourishment and memory. Here, time feels slower. The flames flicker softly across the rough surface as bread is passed from hand to hand. There's a bowl of apples, a brass candlestick, silver spoons that have lost their shine. The chairs around this table creak with use and care, and yet the room feels alive, as if this dinner might stretch into midnight or become a ritual for the soul. You almost expect someone to hum an old tune or speak a wish into the quiet. In all these places, a door has become something more than it was. It no longer opens to a room, it opens to connection. That's the magic of farmhouse craft, not just upcycling, but reimagining. Not just reuse, but resurrection. And the table, humble, weathered, and reborn, becomes a place where every meal starts with gratitude and ends with story. Five, reclaimed cabinet farmhouse pantry makeover. There is something deeply comforting about a pantry that feels like it belongs in a quiet country poem, a place not just for storing food, but for anchoring life. In a nook bathed in soft daylight, a reclaimed cabinet takes center stage, no longer forgotten in a dusty shed. It stands with quiet dignity, its sage green paint chipped just enough to reveal history in the wood grain beneath. Chicken wire replaces glass on the doors, allowing sunlight to flicker through shelves lined with hand-labeled jars and neatly folded linens. A basket of oats, a pot of lavender, and a scattering of flour on a woven rug, none of it posed, yet everything intentional. This is not a pantry for performance, but for peace. For baking with bare feet and humming while slicing apples. Elsewhere, a tall wooden cupboard leans against a brick wall, flanked by bundles of herbs drying in the air. Garlic hangs lazily from a knob, and a tiny scoop dangles like a forgotten charm. Inside, rows of grains and beans sit patiently in glass jars, not in matching rows, but in lived-in symmetry. The air smells faintly of rosemary and warm grain. It's a room of rhythm, where dinner begins not with a recipe, but with opening a cabinet and seeing what speaks to the day. There is a rustic elegance here, a kind that cannot be bought, only built by use. And in a room where morning light pours in generously, a pale cream cabinet nestles between two tall windows, turned into a pantry with gentle hands. It cradles produce in woven baskets, oranges, apples, jars of jam and honey, all sitting with ease and dignity. A drawer slightly ajar reveals soft napkins with checkered patterns, waiting to be used at the next shared meal. A small terracotta pot holds fresh mint, reaching gently toward the light, a quiet green miracle amid everyday objects. Nothing here is curated, yet everything feels composed. As though a quiet forest spirit had touched the corners and whispered, "Let it be useful, let it be lovely." These are not just storage spaces. They are gathering places for intention, for slowing down, grounding ourselves, and letting the day unfold with calm certainty. In the heart of farmhouse life, a cabinet is never just a cabinet. It is a keeper of calm, a shelter for the things that nourish. Six, vintage nightstand pet bed DIY. Sometimes the sweetest ideas come from the quietest corners of a home, where something old and ordinary becomes something deeply personal and full of care. In one sunny nook beneath a wide bay window, a lavender-painted nightstand finds a new purpose. Once forgotten in the attic, its soft lilac hue now sings gently in the light, softened further by time and wear. Inside, a plush cushion nestles like a warm secret, waiting for a loyal pup to rest. A garland of dried flowers drapes delicately above the opening, while a basket of toys sits nearby, as if the room itself has been listening for playtime giggles and tail wags. The dog, curled in quiet contentment, completes the scene like punctuation in a tender sentence. Here, nothing feels staged, only loved. Elsewhere in the home, another vintage nightstand stands proudly between elegant houseplants and a carved reading chair. The furniture's soft sage finish is just imperfect enough to feel real, with hand-carved curves that echo another time. Inside the open shelf, a tufted cushion with red embroidery offers sanctuary for a small pet. The air smells of tea and lemon biscuits. Light dances through the window and wraps itself around each object with care. This isn't just a pet bed, it's a shared moment between design and devotion. A room where fur and fabric belong equally. In the hallway, where the golden glow of afternoon settles across wide floorboards, a cream-painted nightstand has been emptied of drawers and filled with a blooming pillow instead. A cat sleeps inside, breathing slowly, the edges of her fur catching the light. A trailing ivy plant curls over the top as if to guard her dreams. The cabinet no longer stores forgotten things. Now, it cradles trust. These upcycled pieces don't shout for attention. They simply belong, not just in farmhouse decor, but in lives full of gentleness. Because when we give old furniture a second life, we often discover that what we're really creating is a softer place for everyone to rest. Seven, rustic crate wall shelves for farmhouse charm. Sometimes, the humblest objects carry the greatest stories, especially when they are given a second life with intention and love. In a sunlit mudroom where ivy winds lazily across the ceiling beams, old fruit crates have been gently reimagined as floating shelves. Once used to carry apples and jars, now they cradle pressed flower books, terracotta pots, and packets of seeds waiting to bloom. Dried eucalyptus leans casually against the wood, softening the scene with silvery greens. Light from above dapples through the glass roof, brushing the old crates with a golden wash that feels like a quiet afternoon in a forgotten garden. This is not decoration, it's memory and purpose, held within reclaimed wood and clear glass. Elsewhere, in a soft grey hallway where a cat strolls past like it owns the world, crates have been stacked vertically to create a farmhouse tower. Their rough-hewn surfaces are lined with vintage floral paper, making each cubby feel like a little diorama of comfort. Ceramic mugs, potted rosemary, and a tiny candle glow with the kind of charm that doesn't scream, it whispers. You can almost smell the herbs. You can almost hear the tea being poured. These aren't shelves. They're shelves with stories. And in a tiny laundry space kissed by light, 3 more crates float like quiet anchors on the wall. A bundle of folded linen rests beside a pitcher filled with lavender. Nothing here is too new, too clean, or too precise, which is exactly why it feels like home. The wood has aged gracefully, proud of its scuffs and grooves. The shelves don't try to impress, they simply do their job beautifully. This is the heart of farmhouse creativity. It's not about buying more. It's about noticing what's already around you, and turning it into something magical, meaningful, and completely your own. Because when you take a weathered crate and give it a wall to lean on, you're not just saving space. You're making space for life. '8. Chippy dresser coffee bar conversion. There's something magical about giving forgotten furniture a second chance, especially when that chance involves morning rituals, fragrant spices, and a slow cup of coffee beneath vines in bloom. On a screened porch kissed by greenery, an old chippy dresser stands proud, no longer tucked away in storage but placed at the heart of daily joy. Its weathered surface holds glass jars labeled by hand, cinnamon, cocoa, coffee, next to a stovetop espresso pot gently bubbling with promise. A teacup filled with curled cinnamon sticks stands like a bouquet, and an open drawer reveals yellowed letters and stained recipe cards. The breeze lifts the lace curtain just enough to let the light in, dancing on the warm wood like memories stirred by aroma. This isn't just a coffee bar. It's a chapter of your story brought back to life with scent and soul. Inside, beneath the sloping ceiling of a cozy loft, a once overlooked robin's egg blue dresser becomes a quiet sanctuary for tea and pastries. Mismatched knobs, a copper kettle, a linen basket cradling fresh croissants, they all speak the language of home. Vines curl in through the open window, and on the sill, a squirrel pauses, curious but unbothered. The golden light filtering through the leaves touches everything like a blessing. Here, a simple corner is transformed into a lullaby of peace and pleasure, inviting you to linger longer than you planned. And in the farmhouse kitchen, another dresser, this one adorned with peeling white paint, wears its age like lace. The top is a gentle chaos of vintage teapots, a mushroom-shaped sugar bowl, and a handful of stacked cups waiting their turn. The drawers, half open, reveal neatly organized tea bags and tiny wooden spoons. Gingham fabric lines the insides, and a branch of eucalyptus sways overhead, brushing the air with a calming scent. It's imperfect, yes, and that's why it feels perfect. Like a cozy corner at a grandmother's house, or the place a forest nymph would sneak away to for tea. These old dressers were never just furniture, they were waiting for the right moment to serve again. Not just to store, but to welcome, to warm, to enchant. Because when you turn what's worn into something wonderful, you're not just creating beauty, you're preserving soul. '9. DIY rolling cart from old bookshelf. In a quiet sun-dappled kitchen, an old wooden bookshelf begins its second life, now on wheels. Once destined for dust, it's been lovingly repainted in a mellow sage green, its edges soft from years of wear. No longer a forgotten storage piece, it glides gracefully across the wooden floor, repurposed into a mobile farmhouse cart that feels as if it belongs in a storybook kitchen. On its open shelves, mason jars of dried chamomile and thyme sit beside neatly folded checkered linens and a wire basket of freshly gathered eggs. A small fern in a clay pot leans toward the morning light as if it too enjoys its place here. The atmosphere is calm, honest, no glossy perfection, just charm that whispers of warmth and purpose. Outside, on a cobblestone patio surrounded by lavender and hydrangeas in full bloom, another transformation unfolds. A pale cream cart with weathered edges rolls quietly between potted flowers, its shelves now a host for enamel mugs, floral plates, and a glistening pitcher of homemade lemonade. There's a gentle breeze, and trailing ivy dances at the side, framing the scene with soft, living green. It's a garden tableau where tea breaks feel enchanted, and upcycled furniture tells tales of revival. Sunlight filters through the leaves, casting imperfect but beautiful reflections, a reminder that age is not an end, but a chance to reinvent. Back indoors, just beneath a row of wide cottage windows, another repurposed bookshelf has become a station of serenity. Filled with jars of seeds, gardening books, and watering cans, it sits patiently beside a small bird's nest tucked on the sill, a silent companion to the rhythm of quiet homemaking. The wood is imperfect, kissed with pale eucalyptus paint and fitted with brass casters that gleam when caught by the light. This isn't just a cart. It's a keeper of rituals, morning watering, afternoon planning, evening brewing. A piece of old furniture, now full of fresh purpose, humming softly in the slow, sweet rhythm of a mindful home. Vanity to chic farmhouse hallway table. Nestled in the soft hush of a farmhouse hallway, what once was a forgotten vanity now rests with grace beneath the glow of a skylight. Painted in a faded dusty blue, its chipped edges are not flaws but fingerprints of time. On the tabletop, tall vintage candlesticks rise beside a bowl filled with dried rose petals, their scent a lingering echo of summers past. A drawer, slightly ajar, cradles a linen pouch of lavender. The wooden floor creaks gently underfoot, and the walls seem to listen. Here, in this softened light, the air is thick with memory, and the ordinary becomes poetry. Nearby, the end of a corridor whispers stories through sunlit lace. Ivy curls at the window's edge, spilling shadows onto a pale sage dressing table, now reimagined as a console of everyday wonder. The gentle curve of its mirror frames not just a reflection, but a moment, a bowl of freshly picked herbs, a candle flickering quietly, and a bundle of handwritten letters tied with twine. Each item rests like it belongs there, like it waited years for this quiet kind of magic. The breeze carries a hint of rosemary and memory, and suddenly, even silence feels tender. In a sun-filled entryway, a cream-colored vanity table stands beside a door, its aged brass handles catching morning light. The tabletop bears the weight of simple treasures, a ceramic jug bursting with daisies and cornflowers, a few stacked books with worn corners, and a black and white photo in a modest frame. There's nothing curated here. Just life, paused mid-breath. The lace curtains dance in the breeze, and the shadows on the floor remind you that time moves slowly in places made with love. Each space is not just reused, it is reborn. These old vanities, rescued from corners and closets, have become storytellers in wood and paint, holding the weight of history with the lightness of a whisper. In their quiet transformation, we're reminded that even the overlooked can bloom again, not in spite of age, but because of it. Oversized farmhouse wall clock from Tabletop. In a cozy farmhouse dining room with linen curtains and wooden beams, a massive round wall clock made from an old tabletop becomes the focal point. Its natural grain still shows beneath a soft whitewash, with hand-painted black Roman numerals spaced imperfectly around the face. The clock hands are slender and quiet. Real sunlight spills across the wall, casting long shadows and warming the texture of the aged wood. It doesn't tick loudly. It simply exists, marking time like an ancient forest tree, gentle, real, and deeply rooted in charm. Hung on a shiplap wall painted soft dove gray, a reclaimed tabletop reborn as a rustic clock draws the eye. The wood is raw and honest, with knots, scratches, and grooves preserved like a storyteller's map. Faded stencil numbers arc across its surface, and a sprig of wild thyme has been tucked into a corner for scent and soul. Around it, shelves hold mason jars and clay pots. The air feels still, except for the quiet turning of time, a moment so grounded in reality it seems touched by nature's own rhythm. Above a fireplace mantel lined with dried eucalyptus and flickering beeswax candles, a large DIY wall clock, once the top of an old farmhouse table, anchors the room. It's brushed in dusty sage, edges left intentionally worn. The numbers are hand-lettered, each slightly different, adding to its whimsical imperfection. Real afternoon light glances off the wood, catching the shadows of vines that peek through the nearby window. This isn't a showpiece, it's a piece of time itself, calm, handmade, and humming with the hush of real-world wonder. Rustic serving tray from old drawer front. There's a quiet magic that comes from turning forgotten furniture into something purposeful again, not just useful, but comforting, with stories to tell. In the corner of a sun-warmed kitchen, a once-abandoned drawer front has been lovingly reborn as a rustic serving tray. Its softly grooved sides whisper of age and careworn use, now carrying a slice of berry pie, a handmade ceramic mug, and a sprig of mint set delicately in a tiny jar. Light from the windows spills across the table, touching everything with a golden hush that makes morning feel like poetry. This tray doesn't just hold breakfast, it holds intention. Outside, where the garden hums quietly in the late afternoon, another transformed drawer rests on a wooden bench. Its interior, now lined with vintage floral wallpaper, cradles a small moment of delight, a glass of elderflower tea catching the soft glow of sun through petals, and a plate of shortbread cookies already half nibbled. A dragonfly embroidered on a linen napkin watches over the scene like a garden spirit. Nothing here feels manufactured. It's the kind of scene that might emerge from a forgotten chapter in a countryside fairy tale, delicate, sunlit, and wonderfully grounded in real life. Then there's the window ledge where herbs stretch toward the morning sun. Beside them, a tray painted in chipped robin's egg blue holds a steaming cup of tea, a pressed flower journal, and a folded knit cloth that looks as if it's held dozens of cozy memories. The tray's faded edges speak not of flaws, but of time honored. It's easy to imagine someone lingering here, sipping tea slowly while their thoughts unfurl like the mint beside them. This isn't just a douai. It's an invitation to a quieter, more meaningful rhythm of living. Each of these reclaimed trays doesn't simply serve, they speak. They remind us that beauty doesn't need to be new. It just needs to be noticed, cherished, and made with care. (13) Farmhouse window frame photo gallery wall. Somewhere in the soft hush of a cottage morning, a forgotten window frame finds new life. Not as a view to the outside, but as a portal inward. With mint green paint curling at the edges like petals long past bloom, it leans gently on a wooden ledge, draped in a quiet string of fairy lights. Polaroid photos hang delicately, catching flickers of memory in each clothespin. Bare feet on soil, hands cradling daisies, a steaming cup of tea wrapped in fog. Ivy from the nearby window creeps in like a friend who knows the stories by heart. It's not just a DIY frame, it's a feeling, soft and slow, a place where time sips tea and smiles. On another wall, a once-forgotten farmhouse window stretches out its 6 panes like open arms. Once facing pastures, it now holds sepia-toned photographs, grandparents smiling in old Sunday clothes, siblings in fields long gone. A gentle rope twine crisscrosses the panes, holding each memory like a lullaby. Afternoon light slips in from a nearby window, spilling gold over a pair of eucalyptus stems standing proudly in a glass bottle. The book on the wall, forever paused mid-sentence, seems to whisper the same stories the photos tell. And for a moment, even the air holds its breath, honoring the presence of what once was and still is. Elsewhere, anchored above a reclaimed wooden table, another window frame rests with time-worn dignity. Its chipping white paint, warm with patina, speaks of seasons survived. Each photo, black and white, faded at the edges, is held by tiny clips that seem to say, "You are still loved." Between them, a handwritten note, perhaps a letter or poem, lingers like the scent of dried chamomile in the vase below. Light from a nearby door pours in, catching the shimmer of dust like golden thread. This isn't decor. It's heritage. A tapestry of faces and words stitched together by hands that once built homes, told bedtime stories, and tucked flowers behind ears. (14) Table leg to rustic coat rack. In a hallway kissed by morning sun, a pale sage coat rack greets the day with a soft hush. The board behind it, gently distressed, holds 3 golden hooks that glint as light filters through the nearby window. A worn shawl hangs as if recently left behind, and beside it, a fragrant bundle of dried lavender sways ever so slightly in the breeze. The wall whispers quiet charm. Nothing is forced, only found. This is the kind of corner where stillness lingers and scent tells the story. Nearby, ivy curls lazily along the window's edge, and for a moment, time itself feels content to slow. Not far from this vignette, an old wooden beam, repurposed from the frame of a once sturdy barn, has found new life as a farmhouse coat rack. Its dark grain is rich with character, the texture uneven in all the right ways. Iron hooks, kissed by years and rust, hold simple treasures: a linen apron, a sun-kissed straw hat, and a basket still cradling blooms from a morning in the garden. There's no perfection here, only presence. It's the kind of practical beauty that happens when hands build for life, not for show. And then, tucked just inside a front door glowing with afternoon warmth, a whimsical standing coat rack welcomes wanderers. Crafted from a salvaged table leg, its curves feel graceful, even elegant, like a quiet curtsy to old-world charm. Worn white paint reveals the life it's lived, and now it holds a floppy straw hat, a woven bag, and a floral scarf that dances with each breeze. The wooden floor beneath it glows golden, catching both dust and magic in its grain. It's not just a coat rack, it's a piece of poetry for the everyday, proof that even the forgotten legs of furniture can stand tall again, telling stories in wood and warmth. (15) Farmhouse plant stand from reused stool. In the soft hush of a farmhouse morning, where sunlight peeks through lace-trimmed curtains and spills gently across wooden walls, a humble coat rack tells stories without words. It's not store-bought or pristine. It's crafted from a weathered table leg, painted in faded white and lovingly distressed by time. Crowning its shape are black hooks that cradle a straw hat, a woven bag, and a scarf dotted with florals. This isn't just decor. It's memory made visible, a whisper of days spent walking meadows and sharing laughter by the hearth. A few steps away, near the garden exit, another tale unfolds. Here, a wide plank of salvaged dark wood stretches across the wall, its deep grain and uneven edges alive with history. Each sturdy iron hook bears a mark of purpose: a linen apron still scented with rosemary, a well-loved hat softened by sun, and a wicker basket brimming with fresh clover. There's no attempt to tidy, no stylized intent. It is exactly as it should be, real, imperfect, enduring. A quiet companion to lives that are deeply rooted in the rhythm of home. Farther in, a gentle surprise awaits: a coat rack mounted on the wall, fashioned from an old spindle leg and kissed with sage green paint. Brush strokes remain visible, and brass hooks glint in the filtered light. One hook holds a draped shawl, another, a bunch of dried lavender, tied with twine and fragrant with memory. Ivy climbs lazily along the nearby window, moving ever so slightly with the breeze. It's a still moment, sacred in its silence. Not for show, but for soul. And then, there's the porch. Wooden planks warmed by the sun, terracotta pots filled with mint and lavender lining the edges, and in their midst, an old green stool now proud with daisies. The paint on the stool is chipped, its legs just uneven enough to wobble with charm. But it stands tall, transformed, a perfect plant stand that invites butterflies to linger and gardeners to smile. A relic, perhaps, but one reborn in purpose and joy. Not far from there, in a greenhouse where mist beads softly on glass, a white stool stands like a quiet pedestal. Its flaking paint reveals hints of the wood's old warmth beneath, and above it bursts a lush fern, green and thriving. Ivy clings nearby, pots overflow with herbs, and the filtered light moves like water across the scene. There are no hard edges here, just life, unfolding slowly, naturally, without rush or artifice. It's a nook of peace where even the old stool breathes alongside the plants. Inside the farmhouse kitchen, where scent and story linger in the air, a stool painted in dusty blue cradles a floral pot. In that pot blooms a vivid begonia, its pink petals bright against the soft morning light. Around it, herbs line the windowsill in mismatched planters, clay, ceramic, blue and white teacups, all catching the sun like old friends basking together. There's no perfection here, only personality. This is what happens when furniture is given a second life, not just as utility, but as keeper of beauty, place, and spirit. (16) Wall-mounted shelves from repurposed drawers. In a sunlit room where greenery spills over every edge, forgotten drawers are reborn as quiet storytellers. Stacked like uneven bricks of memory, each drawer holds a fragment of daily magic. A cactus in a ceramic pot, a jar of colored pencils, a notebook tied with twine, perhaps once used to jot down recipes or sketches of imagined gardens. The drawers, mismatched in size and hue, are painted in calming shades of sage, cream, and charcoal. Some are left ajar, like open secrets. Their interiors are not curated but lived in, speckled with soil, faded by sun, and softened by time. It doesn't try to impress, it simply is, and that's what makes it sing. Further along, perched above a rustic stone hearth, more drawers whisper of lives once led. One still holds folded linen with creases like old maps. Another cradles an old photo in a weathered frame, a black and white smile frozen in sunlit nostalgia. The surface holds candle holders, terracotta and raw, their wax softly pulled from previous evenings. The paint is imperfect, chipped in places, hinting at decades of service in kitchens or bedrooms. Ivy brushes gently against the wood from below, a nod to how nature and memory weave themselves through everything we love and use again. And then, beside a cottage window streaked with raindrops, 3 vintage drawers are fastened to the wall like open arms. Their backs are lined with floral paper, delicate, fraying, authentic. Inside, tea sets adorned with violets sit quietly beside spice jars labeled in hand-drawn script. Dried flowers in little frames rest beside the cups, as if caught mid-whisper. It feels like something a grandmother might have done with joy on a rainy day, not for anyone else, just for the beauty of living among cherished things. 17. Tall candle holders from chair spindles. In a quiet sunlit room, drawers once forgotten in dusty cabinets find new life as charming shelves on a cottage wall. Their wood faces are softened by time, their scuffed knobs now anchors for stories. Teacups bloom with delicate florals, spice jars whisper of kitchen rituals, and pressed flowers frame memories that never fade. The drawers are lined with floral paper, edges curling gently like the pages of a beloved book. Light from the window spills in like a blessing, catching on porcelain and glass, turning ordinary moments into quiet poetry. Not far away, an old fireplace mantel becomes a canvas for a tale of repurposed grace. A row of mismatched drawer fronts, in faded greys and ivories, sit nestled atop rustic stone. Rolled linens rest in their bellies, a feather has wandered in and stayed, and a framed black and white photo sits proudly, its subject smiling from another time. Clay candle holders and soft ivy spill into the scene, making it feel not staged, but lived in, like a gentle memory you've just stepped into. Then, there's the sunroom, a riot of green, scent, and creativity. A stack of reclaimed drawers bursts with life and color. Some open wide, revealing jars of colored pencils, notebooks wrapped in string, succulents in terracotta. Others remain closed, hinting at secrets. Plants spill from every surface, their leaves reaching for the sun. The light is dappled and warm, dust motes dancing like tiny fairies. It's not just a workspace, it's an artist's haven, messy in the most wonderful way, where old wood and quiet hands create something tender. On a sturdy farmhouse table, tall candle holders stand in quiet ceremony. Fashioned from the spindles of discarded chairs, their bodies are slender, graceful, and slightly different, each one bearing the character of past lives. Painted in dusty whites and pale grays, they hold golden beeswax candles whose flames flicker like old songs. A jar of wildflowers nearby completes the moment. It's sunset outside. The candles don't just light the room, they bless it. By the hearth, a row of spindle candle holders forms a sacred line of warmth. Some are chipped, some sanded smooth, some still bearing the fingerprints of time. A cat curls lazily beneath them, as if to guard this little shrine of light and silence. Ivy creeps gently down from the mantel above, and the candles, tall and thin, burn with a golden hush that asks for stillness. Each holder is unique, yet together they create a harmony no factory could replicate. And tucked into a shelf flanked by dried herbs and well-read books, 3 spindled candle holders rest like relics. Their forms are soft spirals, wood-weathered and flecked with age. Wax drips slowly down, not as a flaw but as a feature, each trail a story in motion. The light here is intimate, brushing dried blossoms and binding twine, whispering the kind of warmth that belongs to places where hands are busy, hearts are quiet, and every object holds meaning. (18) Slim farmhouse bookshelf from bed slats. Nestled beside a sunlit window, a tall and slender bookshelf made from old bed slats finds new life in the quiet corner of a farmhouse home. The slats, once part of a bed frame that cradled dreams, now stand upright, supporting small collections of beloved objects. A gentle white paint wraps the wood, slightly chipped at the edges, hinting at its age and the hands that once shaped it. On the lower shelf, dried hydrangeas bloom once more in a pale turquoise bottle, while a woven basket overflows with acorns and forest floor treasures, a miniature autumn brought indoors. Time seems to move slower here, where even the filtered light from the curtains seems to linger longer. Down a narrow hallway where footsteps echo softly against wood, a repurposed bookshelf painted in fading green clings to the wall like a vertical memory garden. The cracks on the plaster wall behind it aren't flaws, they're lines in the story. Books are tucked in gently, not stacked too tightly, and the open poetry on the middle shelf invites pause. 2 pots of violets bloom quietly at its base, their colors matching the ink-stained edges of a well-read classic. And there, atop a spread page, rests a feather, perhaps from a nearby wood pigeon or a story yet unwritten. This isn't furniture. It's a spell, one whispered in a language of stillness and soft light. And in a room where morning light slants in through vines curling around a farmhouse window, another transformation reveals itself. A tall wooden frame, once discarded, has become a stage for the simple and serene. The wood is raw and golden, standing in harmony with the leaves that press against the glass outside. Bundles of lavender rest like offerings on each shelf, flanked by pale ceramic jars and a stack of old books whose titles have worn away but whose presence is unmistakable. The shadows shift with the sun's path, and the shelf seems to breathe with the room, not taking up space, but holding it tenderly. (19) Vintage window frame farmhouse mirror. Along the soft glow of morning light, a mirror framed with weathered wood hangs peacefully in a hallway adorned with sheer lace curtains. The glass doesn't just reflect a room, it reflects time itself. Flecks of green paint cling to the frame like memories that refuse to fade, and the slightly uneven mirror panes shimmer with honesty. Beneath it, a console table holds simple treasures. A glass vase filled with eucalyptus stems, a bowl of driftwood, a few feathers, all placed with love, not precision. This is not a space that shouts, it's one that whispers in warmth and stillness. Just a room away, in a sun-washed cottage bathroom, a reclaimed window frame hovers above a vintage basin, its mirror glass softened by speckles and streaks of age. Ivy dances through the open sash of the adjacent window, spilling in like a story you've read 100 times but never tire of. The frame's edge, still bearing traces of blue paint and a tucked-away dried bloom, tells you someone once cherished it. The curtain flutters slightly, catching sunlight and scattering reflections that feel like morning prayers, quiet, sincere, and grounded in grace. In a rustic garden room that breathes in rhythm with the outside world, an old farmhouse window becomes a portal to presence. Fixed into a stone wall, it doesn't try to be flawless. Instead, it offers glimpses of green leaves brushing against glass, candlelight flickering in the afternoon shade, and a cat curled in perfect contentment. The wood frame holds history, the kind you don't repaint but let age in place. It feels less like decoration, more like a companion, reminding us that charm is not found in what's polished, but in what has been gently, earnestly repurposed to love again. '20. Tiered plant stand from old side table. Sometimes, it begins with a forgotten frame, one that once held a view of the world and now reflects it back. A repurposed farmhouse window mirror catches the shifting afternoon light as it dances through lace curtains and leafy shadows. There's history etched into its wood, a patina of time that speaks of quiet Sundays and hands that once flung it open to greet the morning. Now it rests gently on a hallway wall, offering not just a reflection, but a memory of warmth, of weather, of whispered moments we thought the house had forgotten. Nearby, above a vintage sink bathed in golden light, another salvaged window tells a softer tale. The mirror, clouded at the edges and speckled with age, reflects not just a room, but a rhythm, linen curtains swaying in the breeze, vines tracing the windowsill, sunlight spilling like honey over the tiles. The chipped paint and dried flour tucked into its corner remind us that even worn things have a place, a purpose, in stories still unfolding. In a sunroom carved from stone and stillness, a heavy wooden frame hangs like a portal. The panes, now mirrored, capture the hush of the garden beyond. A cat curled on a chair, the stretch of ivy, the shimmer of candlelight. It's not trying to be polished. It simply reflects what is, a life well lived and rooted in the gentle chaos of nature. Outside, the air shifts with birdsong and the scent of warm soil. Here, an old set of side tables, once mismatched and leaning, has been lovingly transformed into a tiered garden shrine. Painted in sage and rose and softened by time, they now cradle living things, marigolds glowing like tiny suns, ivy spilling with abandon, moss thick as velvet underfoot. Their form is imperfect, but their presence is perfect. Bees hum their approval. Under the dappled shade of a grapevine pergola, a mint-colored hutch stands tall like a kitchen dreaming of earth and sky. Its drawers and shelves, once lined with linens, now hold terracotta pots brimming with herbs, rosemary, lavender, thyme. Dew kisses the leaves, and a watering can rest beside it like a forgotten punctuation mark. It is functional, yes, but also deeply poetic, a still life that breathes. And in the heart of the garden, sunlight lingers on a three-tiered tower made from an old plant stand painted dusty pink. Time has stripped some paint away, but left behind a charm that can't be faked. Daisies smile from their pots, and strawberry leaves stretch toward the sun. It's the kind of thing you imagine fairies might have built while no one was watching. Whimsical, humble, true. These are not just DIYs. They are poems made of wood, light, and living things. Each piece whispers, beauty does not come from perfection. It grows from care, from reinvention, from choosing to see value in the forgotten. And that, perhaps, is the truest farmhouse style of all. '21. stacked lamp base tiered tray decor. Sometimes, the most heartfelt beauty emerges not from something bought new, but from something given a second chance. On a rustic wooden countertop bathed in soft morning light, an elegant tiered tray stands quietly, assembled from stacked lamp bases and repurposed wooden plates. Chalk painted in ivory, the base shows soft signs of wear, edges rubbed just enough to whisper its past life. Each level hosts simple pieces of joy: enamel mugs, tiny jars of jam with handwritten labels, and a sprig of rosemary bound with twine. It isn't trying too hard. It just is, gentle, balanced, full of grace. It feels like something you'd stumble upon in a countryside kitchen, where love lives in the details. Nearby, tucked into a beadboard nook by a farmhouse window, another version of this tiered tray takes on a different character. Faded teal with hand-distressed touches, it supports the rhythm of daily life. Linen napkins neatly folded below, while the top tier cradles glass jars of seeds and spices, next to a softly glowing candle. A terracotta pot of thyme catches light at the window, the lace curtains gently fluttering like pages of an old storybook. This is more than just clever reuse. It's poetry in the practical, a small altar to home and memory. In the garden, where sunlight flickers through leaves and the scent of soil clings to the air, the same kind of tray rests atop a well-loved potting bench. Painted dove gray, its circular tiers cradle miniature clay pots of succulents, a handful of dried flower bundles, and scattered rose petals that have drifted there with the wind. A hummingbird feeder hovers nearby, adding a note of color and motion. Earth speckles the wooden trays, and the imperfections are what make it perfect. This isn't a static display. It's alive, breathing. A layered story told with plants, petals, and a quiet sort of reverence. Everything here speaks not just of reuse, but of transformation, how the ordinary becomes extraordinary with just a little care and intention. These trays, reborn from forgotten pieces, don't shout for attention. They invite a slower gaze, a second look, and perhaps, the start of your own farmhouse fairy tale. Vintage trunk blanket display bench for cozy farmhouse homes. In a sun-drenched kitchen where morning lingers like a friend, a tiered tray made from repurposed lamp bases quietly holds moments. Each wooden tier tells a tale, a chipped enamel mug resting beside jars of strawberry jam, a fresh sprig of rosemary tied with twine. The light casts soft shadows across the tray's time-worn edges, whispering of hands that crafted with care, not perfection. This isn't decor for show, it's for slow mornings, for real life, for those who savor the simple pleasure of something beautiful made by hand. Just across the room, another version of this humble tray finds its purpose. In a pantry washed in soft white, it serves not only to organize, but to charm. A candle flickers beside jars of herbs and grains, its warm scent curling into the air. Below, a neat stack of linen napkins reminds us that elegance doesn't shout. It rests quietly in the corners of everyday rituals. Near the window, a clay pot of thyme leans toward the light, as if grateful for the company of something so thoughtfully placed. These are the details that make a house feel like a story still being written. Step outside to a garden bench where the same creativity breathes into the soil. Here, the tiered tray now cradles pots of succulents and bundles of dried wildflowers. A hummingbird feeder hovers nearby, petals strewn gently by the wind across the tray's surface. Dirt flecks the wood, proof of life, not mess. The tray becomes more than an object. It is a quiet celebration of repurposed beauty, of the joy in making something old sing again. Not far away, in a farmhouse sunroom bathed in golden afternoon light, an old trunk rests beneath a gallery of framed botanical prints. Faded mint paint clings softly to its oak grain. Inside, layer upon layer of patchwork quilts are folded with reverence, each square a memory, each stitch a secret. A leather-bound book lies gently atop, beside a clay jug overflowing with chamomile blossoms. The air smells of books and linen, of comfort and care. It is not a scene set for show, it is a sanctuary for souls who know the magic of a quiet moment. Further along the porch, another antique chest waits, its white paint peeling with charm, its wood softened by time. A straw hat perches beside a folded flannel throw, while crocheted blankets spill from its open lid like stories unspoken. A tabby cat naps just below, and wind chimes sing gently overhead. The trunk, now reborn as a bench, becomes a place not only to sit, but to pause, to breathe, to remember that even in stillness, warmth lingers. And finally, beneath sheer lace curtains that dance with the breeze, one last trunk sits beneath a window that frames a field of sunlight. Its lid is propped open, revealing floral quilts stacked like chapters in a book. A ceramic mug filled with wildflowers balances near the edge, trembling slightly with the movement of the air. Scratches on the wood tell of age, of journeys, of being loved and used and cherished still. Here, in this room of linen and light, nothing is wasted, everything is transformed. In these small spaces, old furniture is not merely restored, it is reborn. Into stories, into stillness, into things that hold more than objects, they hold meaning. '23 Wall Herb Drying Rack from Upcycled Vanity Drawer. In a quiet farmhouse kitchen where time seems to pause, an old vanity drawer has been lovingly reborn. Mounted horizontally on a whitewashed wall, the drawer, still bearing its vintage handle, now holds more than forgotten trinkets, it cradles life. Bunches of rosemary, calendula, and lemon balm hang gently from mismatched hooks, their shadows dancing softly in the late afternoon light. A nearby kettle whispers its simmering song while lace curtains filter the sun, casting patterns of nostalgia across every surface. It's not just a drying rack, it's a living memory of earth, warmth, and intention. Elsewhere, above a honey-toned butcher block countertop, another drawer-turned-herb rack takes center stage in a space that feels half apothecary, half sanctuary. Painted a gentle sage green, its underside supports twine-bound clusters of fresh chamomile, mint, and marjoram, each herb hanging like a talisman from the forest floor. Light streams in through lace-trimmed windows, brushing everything with a glow that feels sacred. This isn't simply DIY decor, it's an invitation to live slower, breathe deeper, and honor the gifts of the garden in the most soulful way. Just beyond the pantry shelves where glass jars line up like quiet sentinels, a third drawer finds its second act. Its floral lining, chipped edges, and tiny hand-labeled knobs speak of stories long past, now repurposed into a gentle rhythm of everyday beauty. Lavender, sage, and thyme sway from beneath like fragrant garlands. Each hook holds not just a plant, but a practice, a return to something grounding and real. In this corner of the world, there is no rush. Only the quiet work of hands and herbs and heart. '24 Farmhouse ladder back chair wall shelf. In the quiet warmth of a countryside kitchen where time feels suspended, an old vanity drawer finds a new rhythm as a wall herb drying rack. Mounted just above the counter, its sides whisper stories of its past life while now holding bundles of rosemary, calendula, and mint. Beneath it, tiny hooks cradle clusters of fragrant herbs as the soft rustle of drying leaves harmonizes with the breeze from an open window. A tea kettle simmers nearby, and the shelf glows gently under the touch of the afternoon sun. This isn't just a clever reuse of old wood, it's a return to slowness, a daily dance with scent and memory. Not far from that tranquil space, another drawer, this one painted in a gentle sage green, hangs above a table dressed in lace. Here, chamomile, marjoram, and peppermint dangle from twine in a humble ceremony of preservation. The drawer's original handle remains, reminding you of its story, while light pours through the lace curtains like a quiet hymn. You can almost hear the whisper of the garden through the herbs, a soft reminder that what once was discarded can bloom into purpose again. And then, tucked along a shiplap wall, a drawer lined with floral paper serves not just as storage but as charm itself. With vintage hooks, lavender and sage hang proudly beneath, while a small ceramic jug rests atop the wooden surface. Brush strokes are still visible in its pale finish, imperfect, honest, and entirely lovely. In this little corner, time softens. There's no rush here, only presence, aroma, and the soulful beauty of handmade life. Just beyond the kitchen, past the books and preserved jars, the back of an old ladderback chair is suspended like a sculpture. Once a place for rest, now a gallery of history, vintage keys hang like relics, a straw hat rests casually on one arm, and a faded postcard flutters gently with a sigh of nostalgia. It's a display of memory, not clutter, the kind of decor that lives and breathes with the soul of a home. In the garden mudroom, practicality meets beauty in the form of another salvaged chair back. Painted a fresh green, it now holds sprigs of fresh oregano, a garden trowel with soil still clinging to its edge, and a pack of wildflower seeds. A terracotta pot rests neatly on the lowest rung. Outside the door, mint rustles in the breeze. Inside, this little piece of furniture speaks of daily life, of work that connects hands to soil, and small acts that tend to both garden and heart. Near the entryway, the transformation feels almost lyrical. A buttercream-painted chair back now hangs proudly against whitewood panels, its gentle curves holding tiny baskets and floral cups with quiet dignity. Lavender sways from a peg, and a linen apron flutters softly beneath. There's no need for fanfare here. This is farmhouse living in its truest form, a world where old things are not just reused, but cherished, where beauty is born from usefulness, and where every handmade choice tells a story worth keeping. '25. Rustic drawer planter box for farmhouse table decor. There's something profoundly tender about giving forgotten things a second chance, especially when that second chance sprouts leaves and blooms under your fingertips. On a sun-drenched farmhouse table, an old drawer, once tucked away and full of clutter, now bursts with life. Painted in soft robin's egg blue, its brass handles dulled by time, it overflows with wild basil, fragrant alyssum, and a patchwork of moss as green as a morning meadow. The soil is scattered gently across the wood, as if the earth herself had whispered her way in, and butterflies flutter lazily on its edge. The sunlight catches on the leaves and dances across the tabletop, creating a quiet theater of natural shadows and warmth. It's no longer just a piece of furniture, it's a living memory, an ode to slow mornings and mindful hands. Just outside, under the watchful shade of blooming roses, another drawer, this one aged with hairline cracks like the pages of an old storybook, cradles a trio of herbs. Thyme, parsley, and oregano rise proudly, their names staked into the soil with hand-painted wooden markers. A snail makes its leisurely pilgrimage across the edge, trailing behind it a soft sheen, a reminder that beauty thrives in stillness. Resting atop a vintage lace doily and watched over by a galvanized watering can, this little garden feels like a poem written in scent and shadow, rustic, useful, and full of quiet delight. And then, nestled into the heart of a farmhouse kitchen, a third drawer sits on the butcher block counter, exhaling color and nostalgia. Pansies beam in their velvety purples and yellows, flanked by sprigs of sage and delicate baby's breath that whisper against the air. The inside of the drawer, lined in old floral paper, peeks through beneath the greenery like a secret kept safe for decades. The paint, once a cheerful green, now peels at the corners, revealing the soul of the wood beneath. A few stray petals lie like confetti beside it, and the soft scent of soil and blooms fills the room. It's a space where the old finds new meaning, where drawers become gardens, kitchens become sanctuaries, and the past is gently planted into the present. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey through repurposed charm and farmhouse creativity. If one of these ideas sparked your imagination, why not try it this weekend and share the result with us? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another cozy DIY idea from Backyard Fortune. Your next project might just be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be loved again. See you in the next video.